you guys will be patient with me today. We've got an extremely windy day out here as a cold front pushes its way through here down South Louisiana. Today we're going to be talking to you guys about the brand new, beautifully made Archon Type B pistol. Not only is it aesthetically pleasing, but when you break it down and start tearing it apart, you find some really cool stuff about it. Let's talk about the obvious at first. You've got your front and your rear slide serrations on a very nicely milled slide. It's also got this interesting little cutout ledge in the front. If you're into doing the whole reach around press check, that's fine, depending on how you do it. Personally, I like to keep my hand away from the muzzle, so I do my press checks back here, so this doesn't do anything to me other than lighten the front end of it, and it looks cool. I don't mind telling you, it definitely looks cool. It has a 45-degree angle cut on both sides, so again, it cuts down some of that material on the sides of the slide, again, lightening up a little bit, but it looks good. The front of it is definitely cut down a little bit as far as the angles to go in and out of holsters fairly nicely. I like that. Actually, I like the texturing. The texturing is different in that they angle these little blocks, these little squares in opposite directions, depending on which direction the force and the grip that you, the necessary and needed grip is coming from. They angle these squares. You'll notice some of the squares point up and to the front, some of them point straight to the back. Same thing on this little memory pad that it's got right here. They actually have a legitimate Picatinny rail on this thing, so it's going to accept all kinds of accessories, lights, lasers, and whatnot. You're going to find that on there. It's also got some squares on the bottom, and oddly enough, it comes with this Sharpie where you can actually label your magazines 1 of 4. 4, by the way, ships with this thing. Again, that's a nice touch for a nice metal magazine. But you'll notice on the bottom of it, you can put your 1 through 4, A, B, C, D, whatever you want to do in order to signify which mags you have in there in the event you have different types of loads, or if you're having trouble with one particular magazine, you know which one to eliminate if you're in competition with it. So that's a cool, nice little touch. Speaking of competition, you have a flat trigger. That's a pretty nice touch. You know my feelings on flat triggers. I'm a big fan of them. I like the fact that I'm not always searching for a place to go on the trigger. It has its standard small, tiny crowning on the barrel. Personally, I expected a little bit more crowning on something that has this many nice features, a little bit more internal crowning on the inside of the muzzle. It's got your basic Glock crowning, so still cool. It's still going to protect that rifling if you drop this pistol muzzle down. Be doing a review on a Faxon Firearms, essentially a Polymer 80, but by Faxon Firearms. And they definitely have a lot of nice crowning on their barrels, and I'll show you those later on. This thing has some, I guess you could say, indirect features of a CZ75. The magazines look remarkably like a CZ75. When I get back to the house, I'm going to see if I can grab a 75 mag and shove in here, because this looks identical to a CZ75 magazine. So we'll see. Speaking of CZ75, you're going to notice that very low bore axis on this thing, very low bore axis. It's got a different type of lockup. It's not your standard Browning lockup. What it does is it seats this thing a little bit lower, and not only does it doesn't angle to the back like a Browning lockup does, and then the slide will move forward. It's got this little piece that drops down. Whenever you fire the pistol and it goes backwards on the recoil, it's dropping this small lug that drops it into another small little channel that allows the slide to move along that channel, and it keeps the barrel perfectly straight. Now, if you want to split hair on accuracy, that should result in better accuracy. Look, guys, a guy like me and most of us out there, we're not going to see that in a handgun. We're not going to see any effect of that. The effect we will see with that type of lockup and that type of system is the fact that, again, because that barrel is going to sit so low and it's sitting much lower in your hand, you're going to have that follow-up shot that's going to be a whole lot more accurate, a whole lot quicker, and that muzzle is not going to rise up near as fast because we're pushing more of that energy backwards rather than up with that lower bore axis. Mag catch is nice and big and protruded well, but it's also scalloped a little bit and cut down and has nice little edges softened on it, so it's not going to snag onto your clothes in the event that you are going to carry this thing. If I said mag catch on the slide catch, I apologize. It does have a cool little protrusion right here, some kind of a little guard, if you will, on the frame that's going to protect my mag catch over here. The mag catch is easy to get to. I don't feel like I'm going to hit it accidentally. My knuckle does line up directly with it whenever I'm shooting. However, I don't feel like I'm going to hit that thing accidentally. It doesn't feel that way anyway. But again, that's cool that they put that on there. You'll notice that they do have it on both sides. The reason for that is you can make this thing very ambidextrous as far as your mag release very easily. Take your magazine out, flip it over, and then insert it. And then what that does is that releases this mag catch out. Then you can put it in from the opposite side and simply take the magazine back out again, and you are now ambidextrous. So you have removed it from one side and placed it into the other. To reverse that, you simply do the same. Notice I put my magazine in backwards. Do the same thing. You're back in business that way. Now, the thing I don't like about that is it's very possible when you see some of these, I don't know, training exercises and whatnot in high stress situations. We've heard about it, we've read about it, there's probably videos about it, where you have law enforcement officers who qualify with their firearms twice a year, who might be grabbing a magazine that's not angled the right way. You know, everybody puts a lot of thought, and rightfully so, but a lot of thought into how their magazine goes into a mag pouch on their belt. However, when fine motor skills take a dump, you never know which direction you're grabbing this. And if you have a police officer engaged in a firefight and he grabs this thing the way he put it in there, but he goes to insert it backwards, he's gonna knock that mag catch out of there, and that mag's not gonna stay in there. So again, it's a cool feature for you and I on the range, on a static range. Not so sure about in the line of duty. And again, I'm not dogging the pistol. I just, they're taking a really cool thing that a little bit of thought went into it as far as engineering, and a lot of, you know, some innovative thought, but maybe didn't think it through, because I'm sure they're expecting this thing based on the size that they have shipped it. They're expecting it to be a duty pistol. So that may be something that you might want to rethink or something like that. Cool effect, but let's look at it differently. One thing that I noticed on it, and I think sometimes you can overthink things, is they have this interesting little fin right here. If you'll notice that fin, let's see if you can see it better that way. Yeah, the lighting, you can see it better. This right here, you know, the frame ends right here, but then they put this little thing in there. They're thinking behind that, Archon was thinking that there's a tendon in here, and in your hand, when that tendon is pushed, that your hand automatically wants to close like that. Maybe so, but you don't need to design a firearm to make me grip my pistol. Again, maybe we've overthought this a little bit, but I don't need that. I don't think most people do. I think they may have created a solution to a problem that didn't exist. There's not this overwhelming problem of firearms flying out of people's hands out there while they're shooting it. I just don't see it. I don't see it. If there is, I've not heard of it. Again, trying to add some cool factor stuff is neat if needed. I can see some people maybe that would be okay with, but at the same time, I have pretty skinny hands. And while that doesn't end my day and make me wish that I wasn't shooting this pistol, I feel that. I can feel that fin in my bony little hand whenever it pokes into there. So again, not a big deal. It's not a showstopper. It's just sometimes you wonder, all right, maybe you should ask if we want this. You know, maybe I want brown gravy on my biscuit, not white. So, you know, poll me on these types of things and I'll let you know if it's something that I need. All right, guys, I got my target set up out here, maybe about 10 yards from where I'm at. You know, that's the kind of engagement point that I like to shoot at. Again, feeling like a CZ75 mag. These things go in really nice and smooth. Let me do the old front end reach around press check. Works nicely. Also kind of cool that this thing, the slide and frame, the way they lock up together, if you're doing press checks, it kind of stops at a certain point, right where you want it to stop, instead of coming all the way back and sending that unspent round out. So kind of cool that it's, I'm not sure if that's an effort that they meant to do, but nevertheless, it's kind of cool to have that. So here we go. First shots, guys. You see I'm pulling a little bit low and a little bit left sometimes. I'm a right-handed shooter. I'm pulling this thing down and to the left. It's pretty common. My first shots were dead smack in the middle of this thing. And again, you kind of get crazy and get a little brave and you start sending those rounds a little bit all over the place. It's common for me. I like the way it feels. I like the way it shoots. You'll notice a little bit, you can see where it does dig in to my hand a little bit. There's a distinct line. Let me show you. Again, I have skinny hands. There is a line. I'll sure if you can see it, but right there. Not a showstopper. I don't feel like that's something that I got to get rid of the gun and toss it into the drink because I'm not happy with it. But it's noticeable. I wonder how a whole day of shooting would actually feel with that. Otherwise, it feels great. Let's get some close-up shots because I want you guys to see. I felt how easy it was. It wasn't a matter of looking at the slide, but I felt how easy it was to pull off that follow-up shot. That follow-up shot seemed very consistent and a little bit quicker for me because I was acquiring my sight subconsciously, if nothing else, a whole lot faster. I want you guys to see this thing. I'm gonna slow it down a little bit. I want you to see it, and I'm gonna pay attention to it too, visibly, and notice how much that muzzle must be staying down the front. All right, guys, the Type B is fun to shoot. You just feel like you're in control of your shots because your follow-up is so much quicker. It just seems like they've done it right. Yeah, we're still gonna shoot all of our other guns that don't have this different type of locking system just as fine. But this one here has a noticeable difference. You hear a lot of people talk about bore axis, and you hear a lot of people talk about how they've solved the problem and they have the better follow-up. Honestly, fellas, this is the best follow-up pistol that I've ever fired, truthfully. There may be others out there and I haven't shot them, okay? I will say this, and I like to admit whenever I'm wrong, the little red line that I had on my knuckle, guys, that's not from the little fin in the back. I have to retract what I said earlier in the video. As I looked at it, and I kept noticing as I put more and more rounds down range, that spot was beginning to get a little bit, not sore, but you know, you could tell something was rubbing up against it. It's this outer fin of the beaver tail, the way it comes up, and it's to shield you obviously from getting so high because it's dropping this thing down the bore axis that you're able to get your hand so high. It's trying to protect you from the slide and to not get slide bite. This side corner, this 45-degree corner over here is what's digging into my knuckle. I have extremely bony hands, and that's on me. This just goes to show you right here that every gun is not a one-size-fits-all, that every gun, no matter how it shoots for one guy, shoots differently and affects the other guy in a different kind of way. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying it's noticeable for me. I don't expect to be putting 100 rounds down range if I need to use this thing for self-defense. So that's not going to be an issue. That's not going to keep me from carrying it. But again, I felt it was necessary to tell you guys that this fin is not what was digging into my hand. I noticed that mark was a little bit too far over to the left to be that. I'm like, there's no way I'm holding the gun like that. And whenever I made a conscious effort to pay attention the other time, it didn't affect me. Of course, I ran arms core ammunition through it, in case you guys are wondering, flawlessly. I want to mention real quick that Archon also has its own line of holsters that fit this gun specifically because it is manufactured, made a little bit differently. You'll even notice that it has, you can see the little memory pad right there on the left-hand side of the pistol. It's even got a spot where you can see it's cut out for it. Very nice. I also like the way it has the little kickstand thing there that's going to knock this thing and keep it tucked up against your side also. Really nice touch there as well. I like the 4 magazines. It definitely, for the price you're going to pay for this thing, it's certainly spent casing. It certainly is going to make this thing a little bit more palatable as far as the kind of money you're going to spend. It does come in this nice little case as well with some other little doohickeys in there that you're going to appreciate as well. I like the pistol. It's fun to shoot. I'm going to carry it for a couple of weeks just to see how it feels from a carry gun standpoint, if I feel like it's digging in my side or anything like that. Again, with their type of holster, I do believe it's going to be a positive result for me. I got to give a big thumbs up to the Archon Type B pistol. I know I say that a lot, but this is a well-made firearm. German engineering at its finest. So again, I can't find any major flaws in this, not that I'm looking for one, and I have to recommend this pistol. Guys, for the sake of full disclosure and honesty, I did purchase this pistol on my own with my own hard-earned money. I bought it. No one sent it to me. No one gave it to me. No one loaned it to me. I just want to make sure you guys know that there's nobody influencing my outlook on this particular pistol. Guys, as I like to say pretty often, look, never be afraid, never be ashamed to be the safest guy in the room and the deadliest.